get to bed and stuff. All right, it's the Super Centex After Dark podcast with the Trib crew here, our Trib Friday night crew. Um, and I'm going to start with Daniel because he was nice and quiet there while we were all cutting up. uh, Daniel, I mean, Connally did what Connally does, right? I mean, Braden Ford, Jamarian Vincent, I read your story. They just kind of ran the ball right down Lorena's throat.
Yeah, it was pretty slow to start. Vincent, I mean, he ran the ball 5 times, had about 59 yards, and then just second half, 70-yard touchdown to answer, and then a 52-yard touchdown later, finished with 199 yards. Ford had 166 yards. They each had 2 touchdowns apiece. I wanted to say something about them having 365 yards and them like being able to do that every day, like 365 days a year, but they didn't mention that.
24/7.
That would
See,
have been a
that
good
that would have
cheese.
been the thing. 24/7,
That would have been a good
365.
cheesy line that I would have approved of.
Hey,
Yeah.
they have bound tonight apparently.
Well, I
hmm
used something about Ford's wheels in the headline, so there
hmm
you go.
Dude, he had the wheels. He had of his 166, he had 133 of those all just came in the first half. So it was just a struggle for Lorena to try and come back.
Yeah,
Um,
tough year for Lorena for sure. But that's a young team, and I think Kevin Johnson will get those guys going again. But man, I tell you, when we meet at the end of the year to pick Super Syntax, I don't know what position we're going to put him at, but we got to find a place for old Jamarian Vincent at kids. Pretty
yeah,
special.
it helped him that Jackson Blackwell in the first drive of the game went down with an ankle injury. And after halftime, he just came out, pads off, ankle iced up. So
Wow.
Dang.
that kind of helped the rush for Connolly.
Bryce,
Yeah,
you saying we're
we've
gonna
had
jam Vincent into the Super Syntax team?
do what? Jam Vincent.
We're gonna
Man,
jam Vincent.
you're just full of it tonight. Let's go over to your game. Daniel mentioned Jackson Blackwell getting hurt, and obviously Midway had a
hmm
big injury tonight too.
Yeah, I was working photos in the press box. Midway was up 24-10 at halftime. They're driving to start the third quarter. I'm working photos because I had shot a lot of the homecoming stuff at halftime, and so I'm up in the press box working photos, and I hear Smokey doing the radio broadcast. I'm kind of looking up and watching, and I think his broadcast partner was like, "Is that Cash pulling? There's a player hurt. Is that Cash pulling?" And I looked up and like I didn't have my binoculars or anything, but then seconds later it was confirmed. And being in the press box, I think people in the press box were like, and then you just kind of felt for the kid because he's having a really good season, and you felt for Midway because they're having a good season, and he's a key part of that. But then they put in the backup, Andrew McNair, and they get a first down. He throws a pass to move them like inside the 15, uh, and then he scores on a 6-yard run, and they just kind of kept rolling with Andrew McNair. Coach Gillespie said after the game that he's a really good quarterback, and they could have started him, but they went with Cash, and so we'll see. It really helps Midway that they close with Killeen tonight, Bryan next week, and Coppers Cove. That's the bottom three teams in the district standings right now. Uh, so no prognosis on Cash's injury at this point. He was on crutches. I really was proud of the kid. Sort I don't know him, but I was proud of the kid for holding his crutches up above his head. As the team was celebrating the win, and he was smiling, and yeah, I'm sure it was a tough night for him, but he was out there being a trooper. So
They've dealt with some injuries this year and have managed to still put together a successful season. Donovan Jones, who's an Oklahoma State commit, hasn't played a snap all year on defense.
mm-hmm.
Carlos Talton, who was probably their best defensive player without Donovan playing.
Yeah, he's 17, right?
Yeah, he was on crutches after getting hurt in the Shoemaker game. So it's been tough from an injury standpoint, but give it up for the Panthers that keep winning.
But let me say this about Carlos. He was out there, and this is my favorite thing. I tweeted about this and asked Bryce, what a week for Jade Washington. Becomes the career Diggs record holder at Midway and wins homecoming queen.
Nice. It was
And
awesome.
I gotta say, my niece Hallie Webb, she thought she had a chance, but then she also thought Jade had a chance, and she and Jade are friends. And so got a good picture of Hallie clapping for Jade, but I got a really good picture of Jade with Carlos and another football player there, giving her the roses and the football and everything that they do for the
Nice.
homecoming queen. So
Yeah, Jade is
that's the most I've ever talked about homecoming queen on
Jade is
anything.
awesome. I'll let
Yeah.
you talk about Jade all you want because she's just a great young lady. And Midway did this little video to like promote homecoming. They played it at the pep rally the other night, and it was Dancing Queen by ABBA, and
Mhm.
they were doing it at the roller skating rink, and they
Okay.
were all skating around, and Jade was rocking this amazing afro. I mean,
Nice.
it was
That's
incredible.
nice.
Uh, all right, let's get to some better games, I guess. Because those were a couple blowouts. Also saw a blowout. We'll get to mine later. Michael saw a blowout. So, um, Levi, who is usually Mr. Blowout, got to see a good game.
Yeah, I'm on a roll. I'm having a good couple weeks, but I'm honestly having to adjust to like not having most of my story done by halftime. It's kind of foreign to me.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, this game was really interesting. I think right off the bat, you could kind of feel the intensity because, obviously both these teams are 0-2 going into tonight with another loss is going to be kind of I mean, you're not technically eliminated, but you basically are. And so you could kind of feel that intensity early. And then first play of the game, Gatesville pooches it. And like it landed in between like three China Spring players, and they're all just looking at each other. Gatesville goes and gets it. They score on the first drive. They get out to an early 21-0 lead. And then at halftime, you could kind of feel that China Spring was like, okay, this is basically for our season. And they fought back. They eventually tied the game. Dean Hanna played really well. And not to mention that Matthew Battles was out. He had a concussion. So they
Mm.
had a wide receiver playing quarterback, Ryan Hale, who played valiantly under the circumstances. I mean, there was not much passing going on, but he was doing a good job running the ball and kind of making the most of what he could do. And then at the end of the game, or toward the end of the game, Gatesville scored another touchdown. And then China Spring, with like 3 minutes left, got the ball back. Second play, they do like it wasn't like the Statue of Liberty play, but it was like a delayed draw, and it worked. And they got a 54-yard rushing touchdown, tied the game. And then this is when all the craziness happened. So it's 28 all with like 2 minutes left. China Spring kicks the ball out of bounds. And then so instead of like Gatesville accepting the penalty, going to the 30, 35, whatever it is in high school, they make him re-kick it, and China Spring kicks it to the exact same spot. Gatesville runs a few yards forward, and then they throw the ball across the field to this freshman, and it was a crazy throw. It was like a full side to side throw. The kid goes up, runs 40 yards, 45 yards, gets deep into the Cougars territory, and then on the first play of their drive, they get a holding. So then they get pushed back to like the 45. And so then it's like third and long, and the quarterback. I mean, y'all know that off the Gatesville offense. They don't really throw the ball, so they run this like crazy reverse flea flicker play. This senior tight end who didn't even make a catch all night makes this insane like grab on the sideline, and then their sideline's going crazy, and then Rayshawn Smith just next play 17-yard touchdown, and I'll nominate him for Player of the Week because he had 5 rushing touchdowns. I
Mm.
mean,
Wow.
four rushing touchdowns, 194 yards, 27 carries. He's incredible. I mean, Michael told me going into that game like how good he was, but seeing him live, he's unreal. And then Aaron
And
Hunter after
he's basically their offense, isn't
he
he?
basically is their off. They have some other good skill position players, but he's like their guy. And then after the game, like the coach said, he's the most underrated player in Central Texas, and I would agree. I didn't really know much about him going into this game, and I was like blown away. I'm like, man, that kid is incredible, and he's huge too. He is a tank. So yeah,
Well,
great.
we didn't, on our midweek podcast, we didn't mention him in that offensive player of the year
That's
deal. So
true. Probably
But he
shouldn't.
was on an 0-2 team in district at that point. So, if we revise that, it's going to have to
Mhm.
put Rayshawn Smith in that conversation.
Yeah, he's a great player, and their season's kind of back alive because they play Lorena next week at I believe it's at home. Yeah, they well, oh my bad. Gatesville plays Robinson, so yeah, I don't know, but anyway, huge win for Gatesville, and their season is still alive technically.
That's cool. Well, wherever you go next week, I
Yeah,
mean,
let's
late
make
in
it
the
three in a
fourth
row.
quarter, it's going to get
Yeah,
exciting.
I know.
Uh, DJ, I quoted this the other day, I guess, or on a recent podcast. They are who we thought they were. Is that the case with La Vega?
Oh my God, yeah. I obviously I picked Robinson because I was going to Robinson, but
Smart.
it was pretty tough um for the Rockets because it's just La Vega's just insane. And it was all Bryson rolling tonight. The past couple games they weren't able to get the run game going, and so like Courtney Parr really had to get um rely a lot on his arm in order to get those wins. But I mean, he was untouchable. Like there
Mm.
was I was sitting in the booth with the La Vega radio because there wasn't really very much room. I mean, y'all know how Robinson's press box is set up. Um and
Modoc Media.
yeah. And Tom Barfield and Coach Johnny were in the booth next to us, and they were like, "Well, if you can't find a spot, we've got a stool for you." But I did find a chair in the corner. So, but like it was, the first half there wasn't a lot of offense. But when Bryson Rowland got the ball, like I said, they needed like six guys to tackle him, right? Because he would just roll out of plays and like add yards that wouldn't exist, right? If he didn't have the ball. Um, but it was really, I feel like the defense was really where La Vega won the game because yeah, sure, they got the offense from Bryson, but if they hadn't stalled Robinson's offense, like Evan Moreno maybe had like not even 30 yards in the first half.
Mm.
He finished with almost 80 for the game. So they really had to rely on the passing game, which they don't pass a lot if they don't need to. And obviously Bryce McCurdy's a great quarterback. I mean, he came up in they got on the scoreboard because in the second quarter, there was a bad snap that sailed like 20 yards behind McCurdy. He went after it, scrambled around, and then just mailed it to Austin Marshall like for the first down, and then Marshall just like pivoted and kept running and nobody was able to stop him. So it was a one score game out of the half. And it was just like the first three drives of the third quarter was just defense doing their job and holding it scoreless, and then Bryson got the ball a couple of times, scored to put them up again ahead again in one play. McCurdy found Austin Marshall again for the touchdown, and he just dragged the defender into the end zone. So it was still like, a two-score game. Um, but they just couldn't really get anything going. After that, they did get one more. They almost had a touchdown. Ryder Shanley was going to come down with it at the goal line, and I don't know if it was Amir Gibson. No, it was Johnny Hammond, who was just there to like swat at him, and he dropped the ball. So it was an incomplete pass. And um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. La Vega's really good. They obviously were ready. The
Last
schedule.
week, and Bryce, you weren't on the After Dark last week, but I told the rest of the gang that Don Hyde was like lighting into his team like they had just beaten China Spring, and he was just screaming at them, and he was talking about commitment. And I think if he was talking to one group more than any other, I think it was probably the offensive line because they were getting some holding penalties and some pre-snap stuff, and they just couldn't get Bryson going because of that stuff. And it sounds like he got his message home to where he wanted to get it home because that O line, if they can get Bryson a little bit loose, he can make a lot happen.
Yeah, no, and that was
And
what happened. You know,
yeah.
they just opened the lanes for him, and like I said, nobody could touch him. No,
Hmm.
that you're not going to tackle that kid on the first try. Yeah.
Hmm.
But I do gotta say, if we picked a player of the game, it was going to be Warren Richardson. He had like 5 tackles for loss. He sacked McCurdy twice in the first half. Um, it looked like he got hurt in the second half because Robinson's last touchdown, they went for it, the 2-point conversion. But Hyde was just like, he was just cramping, whatever.
Hmm.
And then I talked to Bryson after the game, and his kid, who watches our videos, by the way. So,
Nice. We love
Yeah.
it. We love it.
yeah. But he was like, we don't care if we win district. We want to get that ring in Jerry World. So, I
Nice.
mean,
Well, here's the
they,
thing. Put those guys, Texas football, put them in the top 10 in the state. If Robinson is legit enough to be in the top 10, which
yeah.
we think the Rockets
That's
earned it,
true. That's
uh,
true.
I mean, with La Vega, the schedule that they've played, obviously they have a couple losses, but clearly picking up steam.
So, and they're 3-0 now, and uh, Robinson has one loss. Connally has one loss,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
So more or less,
Oh, they're in the driver's seat
La
for sure.
Vega can win district next week by beating Connally.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, let's move to the couple of blowouts here. Yeah, I actually apologize to Michael for sending him to Clifton. I'm just gonna put that one on Chad. He was like, low key, that's gonna be a good game. We need to cover that game
No,
too
no,
in
no, no, no,
Clifton.
no, no, no,
Yeah,
no. It was
thanks,
an
Chad.
important game. It was a significant game, right? It's a risk reward deal. You go out there and Toller is like Toller. They're really good. But if Clifton wins that's a story
No,
we got
that's
to cover.
true. That's true. And we hadn't had a chance to see Clifton this year. What was your takeaway, Mike?
Yeah, I think all of us, or at least most of us, have probably, covered Dave Aranda long enough to remember, how like he'll mention like going in a tough road environment, like the big eyes, like he always talks about, the big eyes by his players. That was definitely Clifton tonight. Toller was on another level. They started the game. They were actually kicking to Clifton, and Clifton muffed it. And just a few plays later, um, you know, Toller took advantage and scored, and that kind of set the tone for what the rest of the game was going to be. Toller has this running back. I don't know if y'all know this kid, Peyton Brown. This
Yep.
dude is nuts.
Didn't watch
Um,
live. Seen him play the last 2
yeah,
years.
he's
Big dude, right?
crazy, huge,
Big dude.
huge running
Yeah.
back. I mean, he's like, I don't know his exact measurements, but he's every bit of like 6 foot, 225, maybe. I mean, more or
Mhm.
less. I mean, he's huge.
He's a
Looks like,
load.
yeah, looks like a middle linebacker out there, and he's just, I mean, he's trucking dudes over. And on one play, there were two back-to-back carries he had in the first half. By the way, he only ran the ball in the first half. He didn't need to play in the second half because, well, they scored all 41 of their points in the first half, and he had these two consecutive carries where he ripped off one where he like trucked over three dudes, and then the next one he like hurdled a guy into the end zone. It was insane. The dude
Wow.
is nuts. Yeah, like video game stuff, but it was tough for Clifton. I mean, obviously, Toller returned 19 seniors from a team that was in the state title game, obviously at 2A Division One, now 3A Division Two. So,
And with the new
yeah,
coach this season.
I was going to say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, so obviously they're adjusting to that too, but making that jump up to, 3A Division Two, they don't seem to be hitting any lag spikes. They've won what, 7 straight. I think I noted it in my story. Let me actually pull it up here. The actual stat I wrote. They're averaging 49 points over their last 4 games, and they've outscored those opponents 195-20 in that stretch with 2 shutout victories. That just goes to show, yeah, Toller's a freight train.
Yeah, we probably should have picked a
Yeah.
different game to
Look,
cover
but
Clifton.
we also thought that Mahia wouldn't really stand a chance against Grosbeck when I went out there, and they ended up rolling. By the way, shout out Mahia. They beat Whitney tonight.
Yes, they
That was a
did.
big win.
I picked that game, by the
Yeah.
way.
But just one more thing about Clifton. I mean, it's tough for them. I mean, they only, I think they had like 4 first downs for the whole game. I mean, it's tough, but that they position themselves to still, have postseason ahead. I mean, they won their first 2 district games, so they're 2-1. I mean, Toller and Brady next week is probably going to be the district championship for that district because they're both 3-0 going into that game. But you know, Clifton still has a lot to play for, and that's kind of what Coach Finney talked to me about. And he's like, "Look, we wanted to play a little better, but that's a good team over there that returned a lot from a state title or state runner-up roster." So
Yeah. What do you say, Chad?
You picked Whitney.
No, I picked Mejia.
No, you didn't.
I picked Mejia. I can tell you that if it says
Somebody changed it in the spreadsheet, then
if it says Whitney,
it says Whitney.
Well, that's crap.
But also on the subject of picks, I admit I owe you lunch.
Yes, you do owe me lunch.
All three of those 12-4A D2
I went 3-0 in 12-4A. You're correct. Yep. We'll talk about where we're gonna eat. All right, I'll run through my game real quick. So here's the deal. I mean, this game was over in the first quarter. On the very first play from scrimmage, it's a 55-yard touchdown bomb to Keandre Brooks. And that set the tone. University was rolling 28-0 after the first quarter. They get 2 pick sixes in the first quarter, 2 touchdowns by Keandre Brooks. They did not play J.D. Bell or London Smith. Those guys are nursing injuries. They didn't need them. 6 different University players scored touchdowns, and like I said, 2 pick sixes. K'Ron Johnson is tired of hearing about, University not playing clean football, and he wants to see his team play clean football, and they pretty much did tonight. I mean, there was still some mistakes in there, but if you win 50-3, there ain't a whole lot to complain about. And here, I'm going to sum up Waco High's season in 3 plays, all right? Y'all stay with me on this. All right.
Michael.
There's a touchdown by University, and then University kicks off to Waco High. And the kickoff goes out of bounds. And so, as Levi said earlier, you get the ball on your own 30-yard line. That's decent field position. Instead, Waco High makes them re-kick, and University puts it into the end zone for a touchback, right? So they're further back than they would have been if they had just accepted the penalty. All right. Here's another one. I mean, they have no luck. They have no luck. All right. So second half, it's 4th and 7. Y'all listen to this. It's 4th and 7 from the Waco High 45-yard line. And so University's kind of in that zone where, okay, we'll just go for it. And Savoy Nichols throws a deep pass, and the Waco High DBs converge on it. All right, if you're a Waco High defensive back, what do you do?
Knock it down.
Knock it down. Mm-hmm. The kid intercepts it.
Intercepted and gets tackled, and so
he dives, like he caught it. But you're talking about 40 yards of field position. I mean, now
I've been covering this game for a long time now, and I remember back when I was in Lubbock covering games with AJ and seeing a kid having the presence of mind to knock that ball down instead of intercept it, and being impressed by that. But you don't see it very often. That's like
God bless the Waco High kid. It was a great catch, okay? Mm-hmm. But he got up and he was chirping at the University guys, and he kind of threw the ball toward Waco High or University's sideline, and it was just like, dude, you just cost your team 40 yards.
So did they get a penalty on top of that, or did the ref just
No, they didn't. But
the rest
all right. But here's the coup de grace. Listen to this.
Play. Yeah.
University scores in the 4th quarter. It's like 42-3 at this point. Waco High kid gets it at his own 13-yard line. starts zipping downfield. He's making this great kickoff return. He gets knocked out at the 2 yard line. Okay. So it's first and goal from the 2. We're going to score a touchdown, Waco High. This is going to be our touchdown. They fumble the ball, but they get it back. So it's second and goal from the 2. They fumble it again, and the Trojans recover. Are you kidding me? I mean, you can't get out of your own way.
Yeah.
Oh, they're just, God bless them. I mean, they have scored 9 points in the last 4 games.
Ouch. That reminds me of a couple plays in my game. I had a big man, well, not a big man touchdown, it was a safety, but Carl Simmons scooped a clean fumble at the 2 yard line, 98 yards the other way, scoop and score, right? Another one, of course, I'm doing photo as well, so I'm taking Lathan Wisington gets loose and he's coming towards the corner of the end zone, and I'm shooting him as he comes in, and like they knocked the pylon down. And the ref decides that he was like out at the 2 yard line. I look back through my reel, he was not out at the 2 yard line. And then the clean coach is over there screaming at the official that he blew the call, that it shouldn't have been a first down because he was out. And I was like, no, man, no, y'all come over and look at my camera. It was a touchdown.
All right, well, here's the thing. I don't care which one of y'all are low man on the totem pole. I'm not sending you to Waco High next week. We're not covering the Lions. I'm sorry.
Here's the real question.
What is that? Is that LeBron?
Levi, I was thinking exactly of that moment, Levi. I was thinking exactly of that.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think this was like 2 years ago, but there was a bad call in the Lakers game, and Patrick Beverly got the cameraman's camera.
Oh, yes.
It was when the ref and
LeBron was like driving and Tatum
was it against
on the
Boston?
arm.
Yeah, it was against Boston.
And Tatum, I remember that.
Tatum hit him clear as day, and and I think Beverly got teched up for that, or teed up.
Yeah, he got ejected.
I would tech Chad Conine up for sure over there trying to help the refs out. All right.
Wait.
I want
to say something.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I talked to Coach Helt earlier in the week, and gosh, this was the worst luck for me because I didn't exit out of. I usually record my midweek calls on my computer because I can't do the call and record the call at the same time. I didn't exit out of the recorder, and then I guess my computer died and crashed the next morning, and so I lost the file. But when I talked to him and I was, asking him, like, what have been some of the challenges that you've kind of faced trying to build up this program? And I feel, and based off his answer, like a lot of the issues run past football itself. Like it's more of like a school community sort of thing. And it's tough to see because like those kids, obviously we talked about it before and we've joked about it, like we love them as human beings, but we can't go come.
Exactly. And I'm so impressed with their fight. They're still, fighting at the end of the game. And I mean, I'm not meaning it in this way, but there were a couple punches thrown late in the game. You don't want to see that.
Yeah.
But like RJ Young, he had a tough game tonight. 3 picks, 2 of them for pick sixes. And yet I saw a play, I think in the second half, where like one of his linemen got knocked down and he's running over there to help him, get up and stuff. And I'm just like, you just want those kids to like experience some success, but man, they're climbing uphill for sure.
They've won a couple games though, right?
They have 2 wins on the season. So
yeah, I covered the game where they won in overtime at the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
the Cleburne game.
Against Cleburne, and Cleburne is now 0-9. Oh, okay.
So before we go, the question I really want to answer tonight, I want Bryce to tell us. Next week you're driving down Highway 6. Right. One way or another, you're driving down Highway 6.
I'm going to Bryan.
Stopping Bryan for what promises to be a pretty lopsided Midway Bryan game. Are you going to keep on driving? Are you going to go see your mom and do the University at Brenham game?
Well, if I was going to Brenham, first of all, I would not go Highway 6. I've made that trip many times, so I know how to get to
Okay, all
Brenham.
right, all right, all right,
I would go down Highway 77
all
through
right.
Cameron and hit 36 to Brenham. But uh, no, I'll go to Bryan and go see my Aggie son
Mm.
and go cover the Panthers. Midway still has a shot because I think is Temple Harker Heights next week. It might be.
Yeah, I believe Temple Harker Heights is the last week of the regular
Okay.
season.
Well, obviously, if Temple can knock off Harker Heights, that would help Midway out, and they could still get into that district championship mix. With one loss. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So yeah, I'll go cover Midway and Bryan, and maybe we'll find somebody to go to Brown. I don't know, but
Hey, did Belton beat Rudder?
Yes.
Yeah.
Elton beat Rudder.
Yep. Big
There
win.
was some surprising games tonight, like Wortham over Goldthwaite. I didn't see that one. There was a few others, but
This is the worst picking season I've had in 20 years.
listen to this, Levi and Daniel and Michael. So the very first week of the season, Chad got me by 2 games. Okay. I
He's
have
got
won
me every other week.
every week since. And sometimes it hadn't even been close.
And my fantasy football team is on a
I'm out here
5-week
shooting
losing streak too.
layups.
I'm just happy to be here.
All right.
Yeah, that's how I am too.
Hey, wait, one more thing, Bryce. We should
Yeah.
all salute Zach for being a trooper tonight. He had a rough
Yes.
he had a rough
Zach's
night.
at the
Yeah.
Riesel Marlin game, which might still be going on.
No, Marlon won, and I missed that one too.
Peace out.